You're watching Adam the Bull on the Bet Rivers Network.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. If you're not using the Bet Rivers app, you're missing out. Now is the opportunity to get it done. From parlays to point spreads to over-unders and more, season-long futures, and plenty to get to. So whatever sport you're interested in betting on, do it with Bet Rivers. More coming up on that later. And a little bit on the Cavs at the end of the show. But this Tuesday afternoon, as I record this, we get word that the Browns are changing quarterbacks. Brad Stainbrook of the OBR report, good job out of him, first reported earlier today that DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, has been told he will be the Browns starting quarterback for at least this week against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. And Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com confirmed that report with her sources later this afternoon. So now we have multiple reports on the situation. And so it appears to be what we thought it would be, that Jameis Winston's time as a starter with the Browns has run out. Does that mean he won't play again this year? Who knows? DTR has shown no ability to stay healthy. I'll be curious to see who is the backup quarterback on Sunday, whether it's Jameis or whether it's Bailey Zappi, another young player who last played well against the Browns for New England and has played, a handful of games for the Patriots, hasn't shown much, but he hasn't played much. Neither has DTR. He's played even less than Bailey Zappi. And so we'll see who the backup is, but DTR's propensity of injury so far early in his career leads you to believe he may, and the Browns' history leads you to believe he may not be making you through all three games. We'll see. I don't have a ton of high hopes. The sad part of this whole situation, by the way, I don't think this definitely means Jameis won't be back next year. I was never convinced Jameis was going to be back next year. When my buddies Jay Crawford and G. Bush were screaming for an extension for Jameis Winston, I was not in that group. And both those guys have, changed their mind, as have a lot of other people that were initially looking for Jameis. And I'll be curious what former Buccaneers quarterback Sean King, who's been on this podcast and is on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, has to say about it if he continues to defend Jameis. But he's probably not going to start the rest of the year. It's not impossible that he's back next year. If I had to bet, I'd say he's not. I still think it's not crazy that he's their best option, at least to start next year, which is not all that promising. But there's no clear better option that the Browns can afford to get in. I mean, Sam Darnold's obviously had a magnificent season and will be a free agent at the end of the year. But the Browns, having the second most money over the cap as of now heading into the 2025 season, doesn't, and with all the money they still owe Deshaun Watson, it seems highly unlikely that they'd be able to sign Sam Darnold. I don't know if they would be interested. And I haven't really dove into too much whether I think it's a great idea because, let's face it, it's, Darnold's got the pedigree, but so did Jameis Winston, and it's only been 1 year. So I don't know what the story with that is. If I'm him, I want to go back to Minnesota. If I'm Minnesota, I probably bring him back. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. Obviously, they've had a great year, 12-2, and we'll see what they do in the postseason. But circling it back to the situation we're in right now, I was starting to say, the saddest part of the situation the Browns are in right now is that it doesn't really matter. There's a level of apathy right now that I know I feel, and I think a lot of fans feel, about it's hard to get excited about, well, who should play quarterback this week? Because Jameis has been pretty bad the last couple of weeks. He throws way too many interceptions. We know that. He never felt like, to me, a long-term answer. Could be a short-term answer. Still could be a short-term answer. But I don't think so. When you look at DTR and Bailey Zappi, there's very little reason to believe that either of those guys is the quarterback of the future. And so, yeah, I guess there are some people that are curious about DTR. And obviously I could be wrong about him being the quarterback of the future. I've certainly been wrong. I've been wrong about plenty of other things. But I just don't see it. And he's thrown, in his limited play, he's thrown one touchdown and 7 interceptions. And again, it's way too small a sample size to make big time judgments. He's started 3 games. He's played parts of, a few others. He's basically played 3 games, 146 passing attempts. He's completed 51%. As I said, 1 touchdown, 7 picks, a quarterback rating of 42.6, which is awful. QBR of 34.4, which is awful. He's been sacked 7 times in 146 dropbacks. So there's nothing in his numbers to look at and be happy with. The only thing you could say is that he's barely played, and that would be very true. And so could he ultimately be, you can't write off a guy after 3 games. I will tell you that most of the good quarterbacks in the modern history of the NFL have been drafted with the top 40 picks in the draft. We all know the many exceptions. Well, I don't know about many, but we all know the handful of exceptions to that rule. But the odds are if you get drafted beyond I'll even say the second round, it's very uncommon for a guy beyond the second round to become a starting quarterback in the league, and a good one. Obviously, it's happened. There's a handful of guys right now. There's always a few guys, but most of the guys that are good quarterbacks in the NFL were drafted in the first round, maybe early in the second round. That's the majority of it. But okay, let's see DTR play. He just turned 25 years old. He's relatively young. He got a lot of experience in college, played a lot of games there, and he showed some promise right before he got hurt last season. So we'll find out. He did play earlier this year against the Bengals in the game that Deshaun Watson got hurt, of course. He was 11 of 24, 82 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. And then he played at the end of the Kansas City game last week when Jameis got benched. He was 4 of 9, 18 yards and a pick. So he's thrown 34, did throw 1 pass against New Orleans. So 34 passes, 3 interceptions this year is not a great number. But again, very small sample size. And we know what we know about Jameis. So it will be DTR, or at least that appears to be the case. I'll be curious if the Browns consider sitting anybody else in this game. And I'll get to more on that in a second. But first, I want to talk to you about Bet Rivers, folks. And let's talk about some Bet Rivers squares. Players can play same-game parlays on college football, playoffs right around the corner, NFL games to earn squares. Our exclusive Squares game offers additional chances at profit boosts, bonus bets, and many $10,000 jackpots. For more information, go to betrivers.com or check out the BetRivers app. Looking at the BetRivers or betrivers.com right now, the Browns are a 7.5-point underdog against the Bengals in Cincy this Sunday at 1. The Bengals are minus 375 on the money line. The Browns are plus 290, and the over-under is 47 in this one. I don't love this game. I'll have to pick it, but I don't love this game in terms of the spread. I think the Bengals will win. I'm not convinced they'll cover. But I don't know. With DTR playing, I just don't have much hope for the Browns in this one at all. Anyway, the next thing I wanted to hit on when it comes to the Browns in these final 3 games is, will they make a decision to sit some key players? My guess is no. And I know Myles Garrett right now, he's really focused because the wins don't matter. Myles Garrett is focused on getting that 100th sack. He has 99.5 sacks in his career. He wants to get number 100. I don't think he's going to shut it down. However, he's had multiple injuries. I think it's possible he's going to need surgery after the season on his foot. If that's the case, wouldn't it make sense for him to shut it down now? I don't know. But I think he's going to play. Obviously, Denzel Ward's had, 6 concussions in his NFL career? Why take a chance there of him getting another concussion? And, Tyvis got upset on UCSS today when G and I were saying this because he thought it's a loser mentality. And I talked about Kevin Stefanski complaining about penalties last week, and I thought that was a loser mentality. But I don't think protecting your best players, at this point, let's face it, very few good players. Neither one's young, neither one's old, but neither one's young, who have dealt with serious issues this year physically. Protecting them by not having them play in 3 meaningless games, I think is a smart move by the organization. It doesn't appear that that's going to happen, but I would think that it should be something the Browns are at least considering. I don't think it'll happen this week. It wouldn't surprise me if it did happen the following week. Speaking of which, the Browns, not surprisingly, have been taken off Sunday Night Football. If you haven't heard it yet, the Browns were scheduled to play. They already got booted. Actually, this week, the Browns were supposed to be playing the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. And then that game on Amazon, that game was then flexed out of the Thursday night spot and moved to Sunday at 1. It was originally moved to Fox, and the game was supposed to be on Fox. And then in the last few days, it got moved from Fox to CBS. So Spiro Ditas will be calling in the game with Adam Archuleta, and our good friend Aditi Kinkhabwala will be on the call of that game as well. So that's, again, Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS. The Browns next week, when they play the Dolphins in the final home game, that was also supposed to be a night game. And that just got announced today that will no longer be a night game. That game is being moved from Sunday Night Football against the Dolphins at home to a 4:20 start, or I don't know if it's a 4:05 or 4:25. We'll just say a 4 o'clock start next week. So no night games for the final home game. Sure, if you're planning to go to that game, I think I'd much rather go. It'll be dark at the start of the game either way, but the later we get, the colder it gets, and I don't know if you want to have to, get home at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning for a Browns team that is just playing out the stretch. But that's already been announced. And for the final game of the season on the Browns schedule, when they host the Ravens, that game, we still don't know when that game is. We'll see. They don't line those last week games up until we know playoff scenarios. Obviously, a big game this week between the Ravens and the Steelers. They're playing Saturday at 4:30. The Ravens are a big favorite in this one. I'm a little surprised that we have them at Bet Rivers as a 6-point favorite. That seems a little too high. I know the Steelers looked terrible last week, and they haven't played very well offensively the last couple of weeks with Pickens out. But the Ravens defense has not been very good. Now, this is obviously a huge game for both teams because if you look at the division, if the Steelers win this game, I believe they clinch the division because they'd be 11-4 and they'd have the tiebreaker. Yeah, because the worst they could be is 11-6, and then the best the Ravens could be. So the Steelers clinched the North with a victory over Baltimore this week. Again, the game's in Baltimore. However, if the Ravens win the game, they'll be tied. They both would have split a game. They both have the same division record. I can't remember the next tiebreaker offhand. I think it's conference record. I can't remember if the next tiebreaker, I know it goes head-to-head, then division. I can't remember if the third tiebreaker is conference or common opponents. So I'm not sure. If it's conference, the Steelers would have the edge. If it's common opponents, I don't have that handy. Either way, the Ravens would still very much be in a good position to win the division, as opposed to if they lose, the division's over. So that's obviously a big game for each team in this situation. So you got all 4 division teams playing each other this week. The Browns playing to be a spoiler. The Bengals obviously have slim playoff hopes alive. They need to win out And then whoever loses the Broncos-Chargers game this week, they need the loser of that game to also lose their last two games. And then they need to get to have the Colts and the Dolphins both lose one more game this season. So obviously that's a long shot, but you never know. Bengals, oddly, 1-5 at home, 5-3 on the road. That is very strange. I wonder if the Bengals are the only team over 500 on the road and under 500 at home. Let's see. No, the Cowboys, oddly enough, same thing. They're 5-2 at home or 5-2 on the road and 1-6 at home. That's strange. Those are the only two teams, I think. Nope. Very sneezy today. Sorry. The Falcons, 4-3 on the road, 3-4 at home. And the Seahawks, 5-1 on the road, 3-5 at home. So it's four teams with a better road record than home record. I wanted to get into the Cavaliers a little bit before we wrap things up. Cavs last night get another victory against the New Jersey Nets. Nets traded their leading scorer before the game, and they were already not a very good team. The Nets got off to scored the first 5 points, had a 12-5, or first 7 points, had a 12-5 lead to start the game. And by halftime, the Cavs were up 72-40, which means after that 12-5 start, the Cavs outscored them 67-28. They went on to win by 29. Evan Mobley led the way for the Cavs with 21 points, 7 guys in double digits. Mobley had 21 points on 7 of 9 field goals, made his only 3-point attempt, had 5 boards, 2 assists, a steal in just 23 minutes of action. In fact, nobody played more than 25 minutes except for Donovan Mitchell. He played 30 in this one, and the Cavs it was a ho-hum, easy effort. Cavs 23-4, best record in the league. They have scored 110 or more points in 25 of their 27 games. They scored 105 in a win against the Nets in early November, and they scored 101 in a loss to the Hawks in late November. That's it. Otherwise, they've scored 110 or more. The Cavs we are at the 1/3 point of the season, and the Cavs have already set their franchise record for most 30-point game. Most 130-point games in a season. This is just crazy. Obviously, they did it again last night. I think they have scored 130 or more in 7 games, I want to say. Let me see if I can get it really quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, 7 games at 130 or more, which is quite remarkable. They've done it at the 1/3 point, broken that franchise record. Obviously, scoring is up. The Cavs are shooting a ton of threes. I think yesterday there was a game, I can't remember which game, where they set the record for most missed threes in a game combined. I think it was 70-something missed threes. One game tonight in the NBA, by the way, and it's for the Cup Championship, the NBA Cup Championship, the Bucks and the Thunder. I honestly have no interest in this NBA Cup Championship, but the players, they care. They play hard for this thing. They get some money for this. It kind of shows that the players don't really play hard much of the regular season, which is why I appreciate the Cavs so much, because unlike so many other teams in this league, the Cavs do play hard every night. That one loss to Miami was the only game all season that I felt like they weren't given an A effort. And maybe it'll come back to bite them. I have no idea. I think Kenny Atkinson's been really smart in terms of the minutes, but I love watching it. Selfishly, as a fan, it's fun to see. Folks, one other thing I wanted to hit on with Bet Rivers is The prop packs. Earn a chance at a $10,000 in bonus money with Bet Rivers prop packs. Place NBA same-game parlays to collect player card prop packs and earn rewards. A prop pack is a set of up to 3 virtual players scoring prop cards for the upcoming game with an indicated prize. If the player hits a scoring target, you win the prize included. You win based on how your player performs. Log into BetRivers.com or the Bet Rivers app to place your bet, get your pack, also to find out more information. So good stuff there. All right. Thanks to everybody for joining me as always. Thanks to Z and Alex for producing today. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. I will be back tomorrow. We'll have a special bonus Wednesday edition of the Bullpen. I'll be speaking with longtime great NFL analyst Charles Davis. He was on the call with Ian Eagle and Evan Washburn this past Sunday when the Browns lost to the Chiefs. And we'll get Charles Davis and his thoughts on the state of the Browns. That's coming up on the Wednesday podcast. We'll have a Bull and Fox live edition on Thursday. There you go. And then, of course, on Sunday, the post-game recap of Browns-Bengals after the game. Until then, I'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.